Hey now, ladies and gentlemen. Hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. Welcome to hour number 3 of the line. Top story this hour: judge dismissing the defense's push to remove the prosecutors from the Charlie Kirk murder case. Tyler Robinson's team, legal team, trying to make that happen, did not work. So we'll see what goes from there. Tied to that, just found out that Erica Kirk, Trump has invited Erica Kirk to be a special guest at the State of the Union tonight. So, that's I'm fine with that. It's gonna There's gonna be mixed emotions because on the conservative side of things, there's a divide, if you will. A lot of people feel weird about Erica Kirk and the way everything happened with Charlie and everything else. And listen, that's fine. We've discussed it. We've talked about it on the show. There's plenty of valid arguments on both sides. Of course, there's the constant fight between Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. I just saw another tweet from Ben Shapiro, and he's like, "Candace Owens is evil," and I'm like, "Yeah, you should probably just move on, you know, and quit bickering because we got bigger problems." All right. And I understand, like, I want Charlie's murder to be vindicated just as much as anybody else. But what's more important than that? That should be handled. But we got midterms to win, baby. And everybody's going to have to get on the same page in order to make that happen. And this kind of stuff does not help. The bickering back and forth, the fighting among Republicans and everything, it doesn't help. And hopefully everybody comes to their senses by November. I don't care if you got to grit your teeth and vote, to keep Democrat. I'm not even saying vote Republican. I'm saying vote to keep Democrats out of office. Whatever you got to do, don't allow that to happen because it easily can. Democrats, they understand that they have to win on Republicans' frustrations, that they have to capitalize on that. They've done it in the past. They've done it here in the state of Alabama. We ended up with a Democrat senator, which nobody ever thought would happen, based on Democrats capitalizing on Republicans' frustrations with Roy Moore. Although there were some questions about some shenanigans going on in that election as well, tying back to Stacey Abrams next door in Georgia, but I won't get into all that. Erica Kirk, though, the special guest, or I guess one of the special guests of Donald Trump tonight. But I want to go back to court stuff. So JP Morgan, I was talking about the Supreme Court, and this is different. This is a $5 billion lawsuit that Trump has filed against JP Morgan in the whole debanking deal that happened after January 6th. And JP Morgan's like, "Oh no, we just felt like it wasn't a good fit. We had to move on and everything else." They made a humiliating admission in this case just the other day, and I want to tell you what it is right after I tell you about Noto Roofing. NOTO roofing.com, noto my roofing guys, best of the best. I cannot tell you how good these guys are. If you got a roof, and you likely do, I doubt you're living somewhere without a roof, but if you got a roof, needs to be inspected. I'm not asking you to buy anything. I'm not asking you to commit to a new roof or anything like that. I'm asking you to get a free roof inspection. I've never once asked y'all to spend a dime with Noto. I've simply asked y'all to take me up on the offer of a free roof inspection and complimentary roof tune-up. That's what they do. That's the starting point for everything they do is the roof inspection. And once they come out and look and they find out what or if you've got anything going on, they tell you and they're straight up with you. They have no reason to have to upsell you or anything like that. They got plenty of business, make plenty of money. They're in the business of helping people. And that's, it's not that common in the roofing business when there's so many companies out there competing for business. When they get it, they want to upsell you. They want to give you things that you don't need. They want to sell you a new roof when maybe you don't need a new roof. Noto's the opposite of that. They've built a reputation to where people know when they hear that name or they see that sign in somebody's yard, that's a company that takes care of people. So reach out to them at this number and make sure you let them know I sent you. You're part of the Hey Now Nation. 205-848-2299. It's 205-848-2299 and online notoroofing.com. So Trump has sued JP Morgan and its CEO Jamie Dimon for $5 billion. Okay, Trump's lawsuit alleges that his accounts were closed due to political reason, which impacted his businesses. It says, quote, in a devastating concession that proves Donald Trump's entire claim, JP Morgan Chase admitted to unlawfully and intentionally debanking President Trump, his family, and his businesses, causing overwhelming financial harm. JP Morgan now admits that it closed 50 plus Trump accounts in February of 21.
What?
After January 6, telling him to find a more suitable institution, essentially saying that in the wake of January 6, and we all knew this is not surprising to anybody, but in the wake of January 6, whether they were getting outside pressure, which they likely were, from other account holders or whatever, they said, you know what? Donald Trump has got the stain of January 6th on him. He'll never be able to get it off. He's not going to run for president again. He can't recover from this. We're just going to deplatform him and try to, or debank him and try to save face with everybody else. And a lot of people were doing it. Remember, he was getting banned from all social medias. They were banning him from Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and, Vine and, just all these crazy companies were coming out and they were like, oh, yeah, we're banning Donald Trump. And he didn't even have an account with most of these places. They're like, we're banning Donald Trump from ever using our social media accounts. It was the most ridiculous thing. And it spiraled into maybe the biggest cancellation, which was JP Morgan. Now they've officially admitted that they debanked him for political reasons. And what makes this even more damaging is that this is the same JP Morgan that maintained accounts for Jeffrey Epstein for years after his 2008 conviction.
Oh, man.
And paid $290 million to settle lawsuits from his accounts. JP Morgan canceled Donald Trump, debanked Donald Trump, but did not debank sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Wow. Boy, that's telling. So I got a feeling that Donald Trump is going to end up with an extra $5 billion from JP Morgan. But hey, sometimes as a CEO, sometimes as a big business, and sometimes as a bank, you make bad decisions, and it costs you dearly. Cost of doing business, if you will. That's what we call that. And that's what's going to happen to JP Morgan, I assume. The dominoes continue to fall with the Jeffrey Epstein deal. You've now got a CBS contributor. His name's Dr. Peter Attia. Dr. Peter Attia has resigned as a CBS contributor following the release of disturbing emails he sent back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein. He faced backlash earlier this month after the DOJ released another cache of Epstein documents. I will read these emails to you the best I can, but they are pretty graphic, or fairly graphic, if you will. From Peter, he says, no, thank you so much. This is to Jeffrey Epstein. No, thank you so much. See you next time. Hopefully, you're in town when I'm back in 2 weeks. I go into JE withdrawal when I don't see you. Jeffrey Epstein. I go to Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal. He then sends another one. He says the P word, which would be like what you would call a cat. You know what I'm saying, John Bird? The P word. He says P is indeed low carb. Still awaiting results on gluten content, though.
Man, that's so crass.
He then sends another one. This one's actually from Jeffrey Epstein to Peter Attia. And Jeffrey Epstein says, afraid not, I guess, on the gluten content. And Peter Attia then sends another one with an image. Who knows what the image is? He said, quote, the biggest problem with you, or he says, the biggest problem with becoming friends with you, the life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. And I guess that's when Jeffrey Epstein says, afraid not, you can't tell a soul. Maybe that's the order it goes. And so that scumbag has now had to resign from CBS, but losing your job as a contributor should be the least of his worries. This individual should be investigated immediately. And I think this is just the beginning. And I know many people say, no, nobody's going to be arrested. Nobody's going to be held accountable. But we're moving into uncharted waters.
Well, isn't there video evidence somewhere out there?
Well, here's the catch with that.
Okay.
We now are understanding, according to a report, that Epstein hid secret files in storage units all across the country, which may include evidence of his crimes. Stuff that the FBI or nobody has, that may include videos and evidence, names and files.
This is like a major motion picture. It really is.
That's crazy. So Epstein had at least 6 secret storage units across the U.S. full of hard drives and photos that authorities never found. Florida, New York, possibly New Mexico, rented between 2003 and 2019. He paid thousands of dollars per month to hide computers, CDs, pictures, and files, from what we understand now. Here's the part that's insane. Epstein allegedly hired private detectives to clean out his properties before police raids. He would likely get tipped off by somebody on the inside of they're about to raid you, so he would hire handlers or private detectives to take all that stuff and go spread it across the country in different storage units in very unsuspecting places. He paid Riley Kyrley Detective Agency $38,500 in just 5 months in 2010, likely for that very reason. In 2009, a 2009 email from one of these detectives said, quote, I learned that plaintiff's counsel are looking to get the computers and paperwork I took from Jeff's house prior to the search warrant. I have them locked in storage, end quote. Epstein had early warnings about these raids. Someone was tipping him off, so he'd send people to grab the hard drives and evidence before cops showed up. The storage units were never discovered. What was in them is unknown. Florida law lets storage facilities auction off abandoned units after 90 days of non-payment. So, who knows? Who knows if we don't see an episode of Storage Wars?
Yeah, there you go.
It's like, I just got an Epstein storage
Oh, my
unit.
gosh. Can you imagine?
That would be a good episode. So there's a non-zero chance someone at an estate sale in Florida bought a storage locker full of Epstein hard drives for $200 and has no idea what they have. What are the chances that that's the case? They're like, they got a bunch of VHS and DVDs, and they're like, well, I don't even have a DVD player. That's like, I can't watch them. And they have no idea what's on them. Or the FBI quietly seized everything and buried it. That could be a possibility as well. Or someone connected to Epstein emptied them first. Either way, the man had a network of secret evidence vaults across America and took those locations to his grave. Although somebody or somebodies that are still alive know where those locations are. It's just a matter of figuring out who that is. That's a pretty big deal that there is possibly storage units out there with Epstein evidence. Better get to the bottom of it, baby. Quick break, 205-545-9950. More of the law next. Let's keep it rolling. 205-545-9950. Bubba Rumble on the line. Bubba, what's up, buddy?
Hi to the now.
Hi now.
I reckon I'd like that. So this whole Tyler Robinson case, these his defense has their hands full with this one, and considering all the freaky stuff going on in Tyler Robinson's life with the furry transgender violent community and the two violent transgenders that have murdered people since then and all the other crazy stuff that's going on there, his defense could lean into an insanity plea, but boy, the furry transgender violent community and the people that protect him sure wouldn't like that, would they?
No, they would not, because that would prove that those people are insane.
For real, for real, and just the guy at the hockey game, the dude, that's a dude. And if that was a woman, like, I would have to swear women off because that's the ugliest woman in the world. But that dude was just completely BS crazy. And you know how they were saying it's weird how his wife had the same last name as him before they got married?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that was his cousin. So just add that to the.
Well, if
So I've heard.
you're going to be trans, what's a little incest on top of it, right?
That's almost normal compared to everything else about that dude.
Yeah, nothing wrong with just adding a little incest on top of being trans.
Jeez, man. And it's like this is a thing that's going to have to be come to terms with. We cannot placate the furry community as just a bunch of LARPers having fun in costumes, because we're just got too much evidence pointing to the fact that they are indeed part of the violent, hateful, lunatic left LGBTQ plus ampersand question mark community. And, they've been kind of given a free pass on it because it's just a bunch of kids wearing costumes, having fun.
Yeah, sure. Sure it is. Yeah, but I'm with you.
Why can't people just be normal and have an AI girlfriend, Come on.
Tell me about it.
That's not in there. They don't have the mental capacity to do that, I assume.
Well, for real, like I'm looking forward to the day where transgenderism and furry actually become clinically diagnosed as a form of insanity. But for now, they've got a lot of money invested in that narrative. I am glad to see that like transformation surgeries are getting banned, and giving kids all these hormone blockers and stuff is getting banned. But we got a lot of work to do on that front.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm with you.
So anyway, like everybody, like deprogram your kids when they get back from school every day if they're in public school, because you never know. Because we can go right back to Roxy Foxy teacher dude or whatever yesterday. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, and it's a scary thought, man, to think that your kids can so easily be programmed, at their most vulnerable stage of life by some other weirdo that you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors.
No, and they're really indoctrinating the kids, and you can add that another layer of that to the fact that so many of these teachers are tenured, and once they are, then they could just do whatever they want pretty much, including acting like a furry lunatic and scaring their students while they're at school every day. And don't even get me started on the teachers pulling their kids out of class without parents' permission to go to these ICE protests. That's another whole nother story.
Yeah, I'll get into some of that a little later on the show, because that one really grinds my gears.
For real, dog. For real. All right. Well, I'm going to get out your kitchen and let you get back to cooking, dog. You and Jay Bizzle have a good day. Hey now.
Hey now. Hey now. Hey now. All right. More of your phone calls coming up next. First Birmingham RV show is back at the BJCC Exhibition Hall, February 27th through March 1st. What does that mean? That's when is the 27th? That's Friday, Coles. Friday, Birmingham RV show. Get the RV of your dreams for less moolah. Special show pricing on everything on the floor, the latest and greatest in RVs, fifth wheels, and travel trailers. You got factory rebates, you got financing, you got on-the-spot loan approval, and you got Spider-Man. So take the kids with you. See Spider-Man in person. Yes, this is the real Spider-Man. It's not a fake Spider-Man. It's a real Spider-Man. Don't miss Richard Dixon broadcasting live Friday, February 27th from 2 to 6 p.m. Find out more at rvsupershows.com. That's rvsupershows.com. Yeah, RVs are the best. Got more of your phone calls coming up. Also, the U.S. is blowing up another drug boat in the Caribbean, killing 3 narco terrorists. Yay! I love when that happens. Keep racking them up, man. At some point, we're going to get a high score, and I am here for it. Alabama Men's Clinic, alabamamensclinic.com. alabamamensclinic.com. Man, I'm talking to you, man. Low T is a real thing. It's real. And men all across the board deal with it. 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I don't know if the older men in the villages down in Florida deal with it as much. Maybe they do. They probably actually do have to get treatments in order to maintain that lifestyle. But maybe that's not your lifestyle. Maybe you're just a one gal man, and you're married, and you got your wife, and you love her, and you want to be intimate and everything else. But sometimes things just aren't working out in your favor, and it could be a plethora of things. I don't have to get into the nitty gritty details of what happens in the bedroom, but you know what the issues you have are, and most of it ties back to testosterone as well as some other things. And that's where Alabama Men's Clinic comes in. They actually handle and fix those issues. And again, it could be. I better not get into the details. There are some details that I could tell you about that I really, it's probably not appropriate for me to say on the radio. I mean, I could in a medical sense, which is what this is about. But you know, if you're unhappy with several things as far as how it works, how it goes, and everything else, I'm telling you, Alabama Men's Clinic can change your life. And if your intimate life sucks and it's just not working out and you get it fixed, it will literally change all aspects of your life. It'll make you feel like a new man. You'll be rejuvenated. You'll finally have that energy that you never had when you wake up. You'll find your relationship getting better. Your decision making will be getting better. And the beauty of all this is not like a regular doctor's office to where you got to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to get things done and that you can't talk to your doctor. I literally, Jeremy at Alabama Men's Clinic, he says, sometimes I have people call me at like 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, Jeremy, I'm doing this, this treatment, and I got a question about this or whatever. And they answer the phone. They'll talk to you at any time. Sometimes they have people show up that don't even have an appointment and say, "Hey, can you squeeze me in?" And they do that. Like that's why it's so different. And I try to preach to you that this is different than going to the doctor. Usually, doctors tackle this in different ways that don't often fix the problem. It's more of just patching symptoms and everything else. Go to where you get the situation fixed, man. Alabama Men's Clinic. I can't say enough good things about these guys and what they've done for so many men in Alabama. They're easy to find. They're right off Highway 31 there in Homewood. Um, Really cool office too. Beautiful view of the city from their patient rooms, and they each one's got kind of a theme to it. I know some of y'all may not care, but I thought it was cool. But get with them, man. And even if you just got questions about what's going on, call them and they'll talk to you and figure out what you got to have. You can get tested to see where your testosterone levels are at and all kinds. There's so many different options. Here's the phone number 205 598 7000. That's 205 598 7000. And online, alabamamensclinic.com. Go into the website. You can book a session or book an appointment in 30 seconds. It's that quick. So you can book a session that quick. I'm serious about that. So you all hook that up. All right. I need to talk about Gavin Newsom because I feel like that this is kind of what our podcast is going to revolve around tonight. But first, let me get David in Birmingham. David, what's up?
Hey, buddy. Hey, I just wanted to call and tell you, everybody keeps saying, hey, we need to put this in the back to making it a psychological problem of homosexuality and transgenderism and all these other weird fetishes. Just real quick, I was going to give you a little historical. Back in the 50s, in my lifetime, was in the crazy manual, basically, that it was a psychological disorder. Homosexuality and any other sexual deviation that deviated from the norm back in the 50s. And the DSM, which is basically the Diagnostic Statistical Manual that all, stuff in psychology with doctors would have, they would have the DSM. And that was like in the 50s. And then as it progressed down the road, years later, they started removing these things from the DSM. Back in, I think, the DSM-3, it was still in the DSM-3 revision. And then further on down, they started removing further things. And now we're to the point where we're allowing transgenders and everything else that's like tree hugging, loving, marrying trees, and all kind of other weird stuff is non psychological. I just wanted to update y'all and give you a real blown bit of information because a lot of people think that, oh, well, let's put it back in to make them crazy. Well, it was already there. Now they've already removed every single bit of it from the diagnostic statistical manual. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is that not nuts?
It is. It is crazy, and it just goes back to this culture of affirming, and I think about in particular transgender
Yeah.
affirming what is, and doctors, to their credit, there are doctors out there that still will say yes, that is in fact a mental illness, but there's so many
Yep.
kooks out there. Honestly, we've allowed a lot of bad people into the medical field, and I don't say that to
Oh yeah.
demean people that are in fact good people in the medical field, but it's just on many fronts, not just that one, but there's just a lot of people in the medical field and doctors especially that just don't need to be in that business, and it's been
Well,
to the
I've
detriment of
been in the
society.
medical. I've been in the medical field for a long time and seen a lot of things in law enforcement and all kind of other careers. But I know for a fact there was a doctor that was involved with child pedophilia several years ago, ended up getting in trouble, and finally got busted. Had been doing it all his life, and making videos and stuff. And he ended up getting life plus 100, and ended up dying in prison
Mm.
because of this. But see, it's hard to catch those people because they're rich, they got money, they can buy lawyers, they can do whatever it takes to hide their deviancy, and it surrounds us. You would be surprised. I guarantee if you meet 10 people today, 5 of them probably got issues or more even, and that's very low probably on the low scale of things. It just depends on what scale of weirdness you want to actually consider it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
it's getting worse. It's like, why do we want to condone all this stuff? I mean, it's getting out of hand.
Yeah,
You
it's just
these things that we talk about daily, like what we're talking about, right? I mean, you've seen it. You've been
it's
around a little while to see some of this stuff. Even though you're still young. Bird can tell you.
Bird's been around a really long time.
Yeah, I have.
Really
Yeah.
long time.
I'm in
Yeah,
my
it's
60s too. I've seen a lot of stuff, been there, done that, and and there's some things that I can't even talk about on the radio right now that would blow your
yeah,
mind. That you'd be like, wow, how they do that, and get away with it for so long.
yeah.
But
It's downright
I,
evil.
I, I was listening to you guys, and I just finally had to call and tell you. And I had to go back and look it up. If you get in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, all you got to do is just pull it up, and then it'll pull up a PDF form of the first one all the way to the last one, and you can see when it started changing it. If you're not a reader that much, but if you are, you might want to look it up just for fun, just to see where they started changing it. But I'll let you guys go and so y'all can get back to it, and y'all can look at it if you want to later on.
All right, thank you, David. I appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.
What do you think, Bird, that I've created this persona that I'm not people don't think I'm a reader?
Well, I mean, you've done it for years, so
Isn't that funny though? I mean, it's on me. Like I'm the one that's like I don't like to read or I can't read that good. But in reality, I probably have to read more than the average person does.
Right.
I mean, I'm
right. You're
constantly
going through
reading articles and everything else. So,
Well, if you read books or something, why don't you do audiobooks?
but yeah, when I say I'm not a reader, I don't really read books, which is not something I'm bragging about. I just, I grew up in a day and age where we played video games all the time
Yeah, that's sad.
instead of reading books like we should have been. But yeah, it's I think a lot of it goes back to, as we were talking about doctors and stuff, and a lot of people in that field that should not be in that field. We see it with, hospitals that perform transgender surgeries on minors. We see the affirmation of transgenderism and how that's evolved or devolved over time.
Mhm.
And it's just caused a real problem. I even think on a basic scale, how doctors have, and I've seen them, man, doctors that really just don't care. Like they kind of halfway listen to you, and they're like, here, take these pills and these pills, and don't actually try to fix your problems. They just pile medication on top of you and say, best of luck. Anybody out there, I mean, you can throw a rock and hit somebody that's got some sort of medical malpractice that they've dealt with in their life, that has really screwed them up. And it's because of a doctor's negligence. I was looking at I was talking to Trish about a story the other day where a mom out of, I think this was out of New Hampshire, maybe, they had three kids, three young kids, like 5, 3, and 8 months old or something like that. And she was dealing with postpartum depression. The doctor had her on 12 medications. Well, she sent her husband one day out on errands, and they had known she had been having problems. Like she had been dealing with almost like psychosis or whatever, on top of the postpartum that the doctor was trying to deal with by, again, throwing pills on top
Throwing
of her.
pills.
And she ends up killing her three kids and then jumping out of a window and paralyzing herself. And now she's currently in court, on the case of killing her children. And it's like, at what point, like, do we, I understand that it's probably a very gray area and a sketchy route to go down to say the doctors need to be liable in some way. But at what point do you put some guardrails in place to keep these doctors that really don't care, that just throw medications at patients and then ultimately end up with tragic things like this happening?
Yeah, I actually have what's called a cocktail that I had 20 years ago. But a lot of the newer medications that are coming out that we don't know about the long-term side effects. I mean, all my medications are older, so I know all the side effects. And but mixing medications, and you're right, doctors just with big pharma, they'll throw out those pills.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's very detrimental. Larry's on the road. Larry, what's up?
Mix some medications.
Hey, Larry.
Hello. Hey, guys. Enjoy the show while I'm on the road all the time. But the last gentleman that called in referencing the DSM, he is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, correct. And the one thing that I noticed, I was in healthcare management. I was administrator for many years until about 2000. I passed my boards back in '88. And the one thing that I would like to say that I would agree with the last caller is when they actually just totally disregarded the human soul. And then, of course, many years ago when porn became mainstream, I think that's when so many problems started existing in our country. And I just wanted to throw that out there, guys. See what y'all think about it, ponder it. But enjoy the show. I just wanted to mention that, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's been a big problem, and it's even more so now with how widespread and available it is, that it messes with people's minds.
It reprograms you.
It causes, and I hate to think like, well, young people with the accessibility that they have to it, like when they get in relationships and begin to be intimate, like, they're not going to, understand, like their experience has been that, and that's not reality, and it causes God knows what kind of issues for young men in this country, that don't have somebody like a father figure or whatever to sit them down and say, hey, this is how this, and this is an uncomfortable conversation, but this is how this goes, what you see in videos and everything else.
It's just trying to recreate perfection with
Yes.
a spouse, and it just doesn't work. I struggled. I mean, I've always been outspoken about with pornography for years, and it cost me a lot, and thankfully I've been, clean of it for years.
Yeah, and it can. Again, like you said,
Sucks you in.
Sucks you in, reprograms your brain, and if we're talking about young people dealing with it, you're reprogramming a very vulnerable mind
that may still be growing. If you're under 25, it's still developing,
and everything else. It's just turns out to be a complete mess. All right, quick break. I got to get into Gavin Newsom because, again, I think this is going to be the foundation of what we're talking about tonight on the podcast, as well as the State of the Union. More show coming up. All right, all right, all right. Here we go. I got to get on track, man, because I got a lot of stuff to talk about. I really want to break down this Gavin Newsom stuff, which is weirding me out. I think it's too much. First of all, to get the DNC or the Democrat nomination for president, it's getting started a little early. People are kind of feeling it out. There's nobody that's really announced, but after the midterms, that will happen. And you will have your Gavin Newsoms and, Lord have mercy, Kamala Harris. If she announces, please, Lord Jesus, let her announce that she's running for president. Gavin Newsom expects that, apparently, because he was doing an interview a couple days ago and actually threw shade at Kamala Harris over her relationship with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown. Yeah. He said, let's see. He says, what was his quote? He said, and for those who don't know Willie Brown, you wouldn't know Kamala Harris without Willie Brown. And I'm like, dang, bro.
Here we go.
Attacking his own people. I like it. Willie Brown admitted in 2020 to an extramarital affair with Kamala Harris. He also admitted to giving Harris her first official state job. A December 1995 clip from ABC shows Kamala Harris with Willie Brown. A woman asked Kamala Harris, "Excuse me, are you his daughter?" Harris looks stunned and says, "No, I'm not. I'm his side piece." Boy, that's bad. What a hoe. What a hoe bag. Really. I mean, she's a real piece of work. She's an idiot, too. I mean, how... Who around Kamala Harris is telling her that it's a good idea to run for president again? And maybe in her own mind, she's like, well, I got put in a bad situation and only had 3 months or whatever it was to run for president. And so I think I could pull it off if I had an extended amount of time, such as, a full cycle, 2 years or whatever. And if I'm in Kamala Harris's circle, or if I have a line of communication to her, I'm telling her, oh, you are the absolute best that politics has to offer, and that you should run for president. Kamala Harris, J.D. Vance on a debate stage, which we actually, did we get that? No, we got Tim Walz, didn't we?
Yeah.
But there was never a debate between Harris and Vance, were there? Before? Because Trump debated Biden. But we didn't get a VP debate between those two, did we?
No, because his first term was, what's his name?
Yeah, but in this last election, before Biden dropped out, did J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris, not Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris ever debate? Let's see what AI tells me. No, J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris never debated during the 2024 cycle. J.D. Vance debated Tim Walz on October 1st as the vice presidential nominee for the Republican ticket. Blah 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 blah. Who's lower IQ, Kamala Harris or Tim Walz?
It's close, but I've got to say,
It's got to be Kamala. Nah,
Tim Walz is. It's pretty close. All the stupid things he said.
Yeah, that's true.
The stupid actions he's taken.
Yeah, but I think if you took an IQ test, Tim Walz would probably be Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but, Kamala Harris has kind of street smarts where Tim Walz is like,
yeah, because
he's just a goofball.
She listened to Tupac back in college.
That's right.
Before he was even making music.
That's right.
Way back in the day. That's Kamala Harris. The one thing they have in common is they're both habitual liars about their life.
Yep.
They're really good at that. All right, Gavin Newsom, more of that when I get back. 205-545-9950.